Thanks for joining us online today. If you have been impacted by this ministry and have a story to share of how God is working in your life, we would love to hear it. Send an email to amen@anchorpoint.tv. Also, you can help bring messages just like this one to others who need to hear the hope and love of Jesus by investing today at anchorpoint.tv/give. Now, we hope you enjoy today's message.
We're wrapping up this week, part number 4 of Different. If you got a message guide, go ahead and grab it and we'll jot a few notes down. This whole series was designed for us to work and move from where we are to where God desires us to be, because normal simply is not working. And when we did this with a catalyst of a call of spending 15 minutes a day with God, and we started this in week number 1. If we just spend 15 minutes, would it transform our day? Would it transform our life? And I don't know about you, but my days have been different since I've been spending time with God. They've been a little bit better. I've had a little bit more frame of mind. So week number 1, we talked about how to live a God-first life in a me-first world. Week number 2, we kind of looked at holiness and a happiness world, and maybe it's not so exterior. Maybe God wants to do a work on the inside of us. Last week, we looked at correction in a criticism world. And today, if you like titles, I want to talk about and kind of wrap this whole thing up and tie a bow on it. I want to talk about living intentional in a distracted world, because distractions are everywhere. Everybody say amen. Amen. I mean, intentional is difficult. It just is. And I think the reason it's so difficult in my life is because I live by 2 sets of problems, and I bet you do too. I have this nasty habit in my life of judging other people based on their actions while judging and rating myself based on my intentions, because I have a good heart and I have good intentions. Like this in our home, my wife's on the front row, and one of my duties at the house is to take out the trash. And sometimes the trash can fills up. How many of you guys know this? And I have intended on taking it out, but I get distracted about something and it's really high, and I pull it out to put something in, it's really high. And what do? Do you take it out? No, you push it down further. Come on, somebody. And then it fills up again, and then it becomes trash can Jenga to see who can fill it up the highest without making it fall off. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I had all the intention. In fact, sometimes she will say, it's in a cabinet in our house. Sometimes she'll take it from the cabinet and set it in the middle of the kitchen. I'm like, is she sending a signal? You know, it's like, and so one of her duties in the house is laundry. And here's what'll happen. Sometimes I'll go looking for a shirt that I put in the laundry 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks. Sorry, I'm not bitter. And I'll be like, hey, baby, where's that shirt? She's like, oh, it's still in the dirty clothes. I'm like, for 4 weeks ago. And then I'll start thinking, well, she don't even like that shirt. And she's doing it to me on purpose. In fact, she's waiting till all my clothes get dirty just to teach me a lesson. I judge myself based on my intentions. I judge her based on actions. And the only way I know how to close intention and action is through a word called design. Everybody say that word with me. 1, 2, 3, design. If you're jotting down notes, and I hope you are, here is the key thought for the day. Live by design, not by distraction. Live by design, not by distraction, because all of us will have good intentions, and not because we're bad people. We're all going to be distracted, because distractions are everywhere. They're on the TV, they're on the phone. In fact, some gas stations now have TV screens. I think people are going to look at us 40 years from now and think, what in the world was wrong with those people? They couldn't go to a gas station without having a screen in front of them, and we're distracted by school, and we're distracted by church, and we're distracted by sports, and we're distracted by all of these things that are going on. And many times, the distractions pull us from what's important to us. That's what they do. They pull us from what's important to us. So I want to convince you over the next 25 minutes that design is better. It's just better to live intentionally. It's better to live by design. It's better that everything has a focus, that your vision is clear. I can tell you that your faith will go to a new level when you have a focus and a design to it. You would know that every step in your life has a purpose. Every relationship is there on a purpose and an intention, that you're moving toward God, and you're growing in faith, and you're getting stronger, because it is so much better to live like that way. You will know without a shadow of a doubt that you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. You can know that no weapon formed against you will prosper when you live your faith by design. If you believe it, say amen. That's what we want to live by design. In fact, the question we're going to answer today is we got to ask it about every area of our life. Does this matter? Does this matter? And we're going to look at that. And the way I want to do that today is through two things. I want to use the Bible, and I want my wife to come and join me. She's going to be nice to me today on stage. Come on, y'all give Pastor Avery a hand.
The first service, I didn't wash the shirt for 2 weeks. Last
Well,
service, it was 3 weeks. Now we have 4 weeks.
You know how it does.
Now we have 4 weeks.
6 months. You hadn't done laundry. Anyway, so today's going to be a little bit different because we want to kind of unpack some things, just walking through life. And as we've been reading Solomon, one of my wife's passions is seeing people live intentionally and by design. So I wanted her to join me today and be able to help kind of unpack this. So today's going to be really practical as we kind of break this down. So if you jot down notes, the first one is this. I want you to get this. You got to get a vision for your life. If you want to live intentional, you got to get a clear vision, let me say this, from God for your life. That God has an intention for you. And here's why you need a clear vision from God. It's because we have competing voices in our life. Every voice in your life will give you a vision to live for. You need to be grounded and founded in a vision from God. In fact, I found out in my life, when I am focused on my life, it keeps me from focusing on other people's lives. You missed a good place to amen your pastor today. I'm telling you right now, when you get a focus for your life, it'll keep your nose out of other people's lives. Come on and say amen. That's what's going to happen. We got to have a clear vision. The way I say it is we got to have some HGTV vision. How many of y'all like HGTV? How many wish the channel would burn to the ground? How many? Yeah, all the men. Yeah, you got to have some HGTV vision.
You forgot the part where I look like JoJo.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. That's what leads
I got to
me
say,
into
I
it.
was going to say it. How many of y'all think she looks like Joanna Gaines? How many of y'all think that?
Okay.
I do not. She gets stopped in the airport, and here's how I know she's not Joanna Gaines. We don't have that kind of money.
But in all funny though, people will tell me that all the time, and I don't see it either. But it's funny because we have a house that we do some DIY projects in, and I got a few of my friends that'll make fun of me, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, JoJo could do that," you know. and here's the truth: I could sit there and I could want my house to be fixer-upper all day long, right? And I can be like, well, I kind of look like her, so hopefully my house will just do it. But it's not going to do it. It's not going to just happen. We can look at other people's lives, and we can see people who seem to have vision and plan and intention for their lives, and we can say, oh, I want my family to look like that. But it takes work for it to look like that. It takes intention. And here's what I know. When you do watch those shows, when you watch Fixer Upper or you watch Hometown, what is the first thing that they do when they walk into those houses? They walk into those houses, and then the designer casts a vision for the house, right?
Yeah.
And then HGTV does this little magic thing, and they draw, they remove the wall and draw what the kitchen will look like. But the deal is that the designer casts the vision, and then that person catches the vision.
Yeah.
And then they pick the house that they want based off that vision that was cast to them. And God's the same way with us. Our designer will cast us a vision.
Yeah.
We just have to go to him. We have to ask him. We have to say, God, what is your vision for my life? What is your vision for our family? What is your vision for our finances? And you have to catch the vision that the designer casts to you.
Yeah, I think vision is one of those church words that sometimes, like if you're not from a church background, what does that mean? Here's a very simple definition. If I get your notes, you can jot it down. Vision is this. Vision is a discovery of God's plan.
That's right.
Vision is a discovery of God's plan. And here's what it says. We're going to read this week if you're on our reading plan in Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 29, verse number 18 says, where there is no, say it with me, where there is no vision, people are what? Unrestrained. Vision gives focus and clarity to my life. So when you don't have a vision for your marriage, it's a lot easier to drift into divorce. When you don't have a vision for your finances, it's a lot easier to drift into debt. Nobody intends on getting this debt that's going to strangle and cripple them, but years later we just drifted there. When you don't have a vision for your physical health, we can want a six-pack all day long, but many times we end up with a keg. Come on, somebody. I'm preaching plain today, all right? I'm putting the cookies on the bottom shelf, all right? That's right. Because I'm telling you, without a vision, we fail to have focus to our life. You can't have that in your life when you don't have vision.
And some of you guys know, we've talked about it in our marriage series before, where Todd and we have marriage meetings and we kind of talk about stuff. So when Todd talks about the vision for our future, he'll cast this vision of us sitting on the porch and we're old and I'm in a muumuu.
Come on,
like
somebody.
That's literally what he'll say.
That's the vision. Me with them big old black socks up to my knees with Crocs. Come on, somebody. I can't wait. I'm going to be wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Yeah, I am, Miss Charlotte. I am. I'm going to be mean for no apparent reason. They'll wheel me down the aisle in here. Y'all be like, what's wrong wrong with him? Oh, he's just old. That's the
But
vision.
I remember the first time he kind of like cast that vision to me, and I was kind of like, a moo-moo? Like, don't want to wear a moo-moo. But what I know is for our marriage that unless I just die, he's committed to growing old with me.
Amen, baby.
You know, he has a vision to grow old with me. And here's what I know, that if you want results, you have to have a vision first.
Yeah.
And I would say this applies in so many ways. If you're single right now, you need to have a vision for what your marriage is going to look like. You need to say, God, how have you designed me? What is the design for my marriage? Who do I need to be? What have you designed my spouse to look like? If you are just married and you don't have kids yet, you need to go ahead and have a vision for what your future family looks like. Talk about it. Talk about, man, we want to have dinner in our home 5 times a week. We want to cast a vision for the family that you want. Cast a vision for the finances that you want. If you're in college, cast a vision for what you want the future to look like. For whether it's your finances, your spouse, whatever, you do have to cast a vision to start seeing results. On HGTV, they don't just walk into the house and the house is all done. We wouldn't have a show, right?
Right.
You know, they cast the vision and then the work begins to happen. So you've got to cast a vision for your future.
Yeah, so I want to give you 5 areas, and this is extra notes. I'll go through them real quick, and we'll throw them up on the screens. I could probably give you 15 or 10 areas in your life, but these are the 5 that'll give you the biggest return on investment. That if before this message started, if I said you could focus on 5 areas of your life and solve 80% of your problem, most of you would have took me up on that offer. So I'm going to give you 5 areas of your life that if you get in order, if you get vision from God, it'll solve 80% of the problems in your life. The first one is spiritual. You got to have a vision for your faith and your walk with Jesus and where you're going. Because if you don't have that, nothing else really, really matters. So these relationships won't matter until this relationship is personal. You got to have this, and this takes time. You got to sit with God. You got to pray with God. You got to have some meditation. Another area is physical. That we're a physical being. I want to be able to play with my grandkids when I get old. I want to take care of what God has given me. And your 3 parts. You're a body. You're a mind or a soul and a spirit. You're a spirit being. So there's 3 parts of you, and you want all 3 parts of those to be healthy.
Yeah, we have to cast vision or gain vision relationally. Like I said, you gotta with your marriage, with your children. What kind of parent do you want to be? Extended family, friendships. You got to cast vision for those things. You need financial vision. You know, you may not be where you want to be, but you're not going to get there just sitting there hoping and wishing. You have to cast vision. You have to create a plan and then be intentional in the steps to that plan. Same with vocational. Todd was talking earlier about some people who maybe don't like the job that they're in right now. Work the job you're in hard. Work it as unto the Lord, but cast a vision for maybe where you want to be. I was talking to somebody the other day that was applying for a job, and it needed some Microsoft training and stuff like that. I said, go take a Microsoft class so that next time you apply, you could apply for that job. I mean, there's ways to be intentional and cast vision for your future vocationally as well.
Yeah, so spiritual, physical, relational, financial, and vocational, they all kind of work intertwined as we go through these together. It'll give you the biggest return on your investment. The second thing is this, if you jot down notes, schedule the right priorities in the right season. Right. Schedule right priorities, in the right season.
Yeah, so you always have to ask yourself, is this the right season for this priority? We can all pour ourselves into anything we wanted to. You could decide to be the best underwater basket weaver and pour your just self into that, and you could probably become really good at it. Last year, it's a little funny, Todd and I were talking about this. So I got inducted into the Gulf Shores High School Hall of Fame last year. But we kind of joked about it and laughed about it. But what it really did was I played soccer, and I played all through my life and played into college, had scholarships. But what I had to do for that Hall of Fame was I had to pull up my old stats, okay? So I had to get those to the high school. And as I started doing that, I thought, man, I used to be really good. Like I used to be able to do this and do that, and I could run like a 5 flat 40, and we were joking about some of that stuff.
She's wearing her leather jacket around the house.
I did not have a leather jacket. But what the truth is I could have taken that last year, and I could have gone, man, you know what? I want to get really good at soccer again. I want to be able to do this, and I'm going to go play internationally in the European Old People Soccer League or, whatever. And I could have got up at 5 a.m. every morning, and if I had applied myself and been intentional about it, I could have become good again.
Except she's got 2 kids, a bad knee, and needs to do laundry.
And laundry, right. Yeah. So that's the truth
Amen,
of it.
fellas.
That's the reality of the season I'm in. I've got a lot of laundry to do. That's 4 weeks old. That's the reality, And so I have to figure out what season I'm in and where my intentions need to be. And I'll tell you this: just ask your designer.
That's good.
Ask your designer. Pray about it. Say, God, where should my time and intention be put? Where do I need to place my energy? God, we need some more time as a family. He will show you. If you ask, he will show you.
Yeah, as much as we don't like to admit it, time is limited. It just is. And you're not Superman or Superwoman. And you will feel the constraints. And everything and everyone is going to demand your time or attention. I just want to tell you as a pastor, not everything and everyone is worth your time or attention.
That's right.
You got to get with God and make sure they're not distracting you from your purpose. And I figured out this: just because it's not the right season doesn't mean it will never be the season.
That's right.
In fact, Solomon not only wrote Proverbs, he wrote Ecclesiastes. And in chapter 3, verse number 1, he says this: there is a time for, say it with me, everything. And a season for every activity. So here's the way I say it. If you like extra notes, jot it down. Define the when for the season you're in.
That's right.
One of the best things that will set you free, and men, I'm talking to you, define the when for the season you're in. Like right now for me, I got 2 young kids, growing church, we're busy doing things and chipping JoJo in our house, and and right now it is tough for me to have a hobby. I have tried to hobby, I've tried to have a hobby, I've tried to golf, I've tried to shoot guns, I've tried to ride motorcycles. It's just a tough season to have a hobby. Now some guys are in different seasons than I am, and it's really easy for you to go fishing and hunting and have a hobby. It's just a tough season. So you got to define the when for your season you're in. And I'll just tell you this, man, I hope this sets you free. Some seasons, survival is success. If you got up that morning and both legs went in the pants, touchdown, right there. I mean, you came home and didn't kill anybody. You winning. I'm telling you, you got to define the when for the season you're in and stay on living intentionally, because every yes you say to a distraction is a no you're saying to a design.
That's right.
Every yes kind of focuses in that.
And I'll say this too, sometimes when you're trying to live intentional or trying to live different, your priorities are going to be different.
Yeah.
So your priorities may not make sense to everyone. When everyone at work is going off and doing this and you're saying, no, we're having a family day today, it may not make sense. And I can speak to this a lot. I grew up very different. I grew up in a very different home. We homeschooled most of our lives. We didn't have TV most of our lives. I never owned a My Little Pony, never owned a Barbie. So I grew up pretty different than a lot of people. But I remember as I got a little older, sometimes I would ask my dad, I would say, well, Dad, why? I understand you say we can't do that, but why can't we do that? And he would always say, well, berries, we just don't do that. And what that did, though, is I may have been mad about it at the moment, but as I got older, it stuck with me. And when I was faced with complicated decisions as I got older, I was able, in the back of my head, to remember, well, berries, we just don't do that.
Yeah.
And we want to do that same thing with our boys. We're raising them a little bit different, and we're hoping that through this series, you guys all want to start saying, hey, we're going to do things a little bit differently, because we've already established normal is not working for this world.
Yeah.
Normal is not working for this world. And so when you guys start raising your kids a little bit different and they start going, well, Mom, Dad,
everybody else,
Joe down the street gets to do that, why can't we do it? And you're just going to say, well, Forrest, we just don't do that. But
it's not because of the pastor's kids, it's because we've prayed and we've seen kind of the kids that we want to raise. So sometimes we just have to be able to say, hey, there's a boundary here. It's different.
And what we want for one day when they're 16 and 17 and they're faced with a complicated decision, for them to be able to say, you know what? Nah, Forest Boys, we don't do that. We want it to get into their heart to know. And
I'll let you know, sometimes you got to say it till you see it. Because you may leave this series and think, well, just put your last name in there. So-and-so doesn't do that. And they do that right now. And so you can feel a little bit defeated. Sometimes you got to say it till you see it. You got to kind of install them. In fact, as a staff, one of the things we've been implementing here at our church is we don't do it that way. Because so many people come to a church with competing visions, and we're not trying to be a vision of the church that you came from. We have a vision that God has given us. And so when somebody says, oh, you should do this church does that, we just don't do it that way. Not because we're better or worse. We're trying to do the vision God has given. And the last thing I'll say about priorities that aren't scheduled aren't priorities.
That's right.
Priorities that are not scheduled are not priorities. Because here's what I know about every person in this room. You schedule the important.
That's right.
You do. Some of you had a scheduled calendar appointment yesterday at 2:30 p.m. Some of you did. It was like Christmas morning. Y'all couldn't sleep Friday night. But at 2:30 p.m., you was ready to go. Some of y'all had an appointment on your calendar for 7 p.m. last night, and you got on the train. Anyway, I'm sorry. Don't know. I didn't do that in any other service. Yeah. Come on, ride this train and ride it. Tua. Anyway, I have no idea where it's coming from right now. The filter is gone at 11:30. You want me to be pastoral? Show up at 8. All right, anyway. But we schedule what's important. We schedule the round of golf with the guys. We schedule the ladies' night. We schedule all these things. We put in important. Hey, we schedule beach day and we schedule boat day. And hey, we're going hunting on this date. And 2 months from now, we schedule what is important. So the reality is we got to quit saying, I don't have the time to be different. I don't have the time to meet with God. And start thinking in our heads, no, I didn't make the time.
That's right.
I didn't make the time because we make time for what is important. That's what we do.
And when this world gets distracted, we don't have to be. And this is the deal. Those things aren't bad. Go have a boat day.
I watch good football too. That's all good.
Go paddleboarding. Go out with the girls. Go get the pedicure. But what I want to say is if that stuff is scheduled and your time with the Lord is not.
Say it again.
There's a problem. You can go to any success book. You can ask successful people. You can read leadership books. Successful people schedule things. Intentional people schedule things. Yeah. So if those things are scheduled, but time with your family's not, there's a problem. If those things are scheduled and you're always missing your kid's soccer game, there's a problem. Yeah. So you've got to schedule it. You've got to be intentional about it. It is important to put the priorities on the schedule.
Come on, I hope some of this stuff is helping. You're trying to really be practical and bring it to your life. Number 3, get some wise accountability, some wise, because you can find somebody stupid enough to go along with your stupid idea. Come on, somebody. That's right. You know I'm telling the truth today. Everybody say the word wise with me. 1, 2, 3. Wise. Get some wise accountability.
Yeah, so accountability is one of the key things to a deeper walk with the Lord. It's also a key point to intentional living. Yeah. It really is. And here's what I know is when you start getting intentional and you get that wise accountability, because again, you can find somebody, your person holding you accountable cannot agree with everything you want to do.
Come on.
They can't. If they're agreeing with everything, they're the wrong person. If they're saying, girl, you go be an underwater basket weaver this week, they probably don't need, oh yeah, this month you can have chickens this month.
We're not having chickens either.
If you have somebody,
chickens. I mean,
if you have somebody agreeing with every wild idea you have, they're probably not the right accountability partner. What you need is someone who, one, loves you, loves the Lord, and loves your family, and they need to know the vision that you have for your life. They need to know the vision that you have for your family. I have a friend named Shannon who is allowed to call me to the carpet anytime, anywhere, any way she wants to, and I will not get upset about it because I know she loves me. And if she says, hey, Avery, you're spending a little too much time on the basket weaving, your family is suffering, the laundry is piling up for 4 weeks. Todd called me. I know.
It's going to be a rough night at my house, fellas.
I know.
I went a little too far with that.
And it's a gut check for me. That accountability is a gut check for me. And so you got to have that wise person in your life who can do that.
You got to surround yourself with people you can be transparent with. Not everyone, but someone. Because you're only as sick as your secrets. That's right. And someone's got to be able to see behind the mask. Because if we're honest this morning, everybody in this room's got a mask on. Because you see the me that I want you to see. That's right. And I see the you that you want me to see. And we all got to have some relational environment where we're able to pull the mask down and say, this is my issue. And some of you are thinking right now, well, I don't have no issues. And that's your issue. Because people who know you got issues, all right? And so that's one of the reasons why we preach and teach small groups, because somebody, not so you go to a group and spill your guts. If you go to a group and they have a circle of chairs and one in the middle, and the first time there, they're like, hey, get in a chair and tell us everything about your life. Call us. We will fire a small group leader, okay? Because that's not right, okay? Our goal was during the semester, you'll find one person, then when you have nobody to call, you have somebody to call. One person that you can pull the mask down, and because I think friendships has got to have substance and depth. If they are just superficial, then that's not a real friendship. So here's how Proverbs 13, we read this week, verse number 20 says it. Walk with the wise and become
wise.
But the companion of fools suffers harm. I want wise friends and wise mentors who I have in my life holding me accountable in these areas. And I'll say this for all the church background people who understand accountability and accountability partners. If you want to be held accountable, you have to pursue the relationship. Sometimes I think in church world, we want somebody to hold us accountable, and we put all the work on them and no work on us. Like, yeah, I want you to hold me accountable. And it's like, man, the accountability partner has all the hard work, and the person being held accountable just waits there and just waits. And that's not how it's supposed to be. We got to pursue this together.
Yeah. Have you ever been an accountability partner with somebody or something, and you want it for them more than they want it?
Come on.
You know, or
how many of you ever wanted something for somebody that they did not even want for themselves? That's exhausting.
It is, and you can't carry it like that. I was watching the TV the other day, and there was this commercial for Angie's List, and the guy's sitting on the couch, and he's like, "Hey man, do you know a carpenter?" And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I think I know one." And he's like, "Okay, great. Well, you call him and schedule him for Tuesday, and let him know." You know, and he gives him this whole list, and he's having the guy work harder than he's willing to work. And it would be like Todd saying, "Hey babe, I need you to hold me accountable to not go to Krispy Kreme donuts." Right?
It's about the laundry, isn't it?
No. And it would
Why is
be
it going to
like,
be donuts?
Just hypothetically, okay?
Hypothetically,
Yeah.
because I haven't been to Krispy Kreme in a while, y'all.
And it would be like him saying, "Hey, I need you to hold me accountable, but here's what I need you to do. I need you to follow me around 24/7. And every time I turn into Krispy Kreme, I need you to take Charlie's shock collar and shock me really, really hard, and then put a donut alarm on the box."
You've thought about this a little too much.
And here's the deal. This is what I know. There's kind of like 3 levels of accountability, and the first one has to be self. There's got to be something inside of you that is saying, "No, I don't want that for my life anymore, because that's not what the designer has for my life."
Yeah,
that's not the
you
vision.
can jot these down if you want to, but I want to give you permission to hold yourself accountable. You have some accountability within yourself.
Not just permission, but you need to.
Yeah.
Like, it has to start there. It has to, because there's a fruit of the Spirit called self-control. So this needs to be a you and God process. This needs to be a you and the designer process. And you have to want it so much for your life, saying, "No, that's not the design for me. That's not the vision for me. I want that." And then when you have that self-awareness, that self-accountability in you, that's when it's time to say to somebody else, "Hey, you know what? I need some shared accountability." And that's that next level. And the shared accountability is, again, not that person hounding you all the time, but it's that person encouraging you and keeping you on track and speaking into your life. I'm in a group right now. I'm really trying to shift the way I eat, because I haven't been eating for a way that fuels my body. You know, I've been eating the junk, and I drink a lot of sugar and all this sort of stuff. So I've switched that now, because I want to feel better. I want to be able to be in a moo-moo one day. So I'm changing the way I eat. And so we have a group, and we're holding each other accountable to it. And on Facebook, we go in there and we post our little macros wheel for the day. And I don't have somebody calling me all day long going, "Avery, what did you eat today?" One, I'm holding myself accountable, but 2, I'm posting it. And then my accountability partner, what they're doing is they're either encouraging me or correcting me based on what I'm showing them, based on what I'm telling them, based on what I'm giving them. So that's that shared accountability. It's not, again, somebody shocking you with a shock collar when you don't do the laundry. It's
You're stuck on the laundry, aren't you?
it's somebody encouraging you and bringing in some of that correction. That's the shared accountability.
The last level is surrendered accountability, and this would be more in the realm of addiction or destructive habits, things of that nature, where you have to give up control so that you can regain control. And this can look like a number of ways. I think the biggest and broadest would be someone who can't get in control with a substance, and you may have to go to a rehab. And I think there's some Christ-centered places you can go, because rehab is not just a place you go to get better, but you go to Christ to get free. And you don't have to suffer with addiction forever. You can be free. You can be set free by the power of the risen Savior. We believe that with everything that's inside of us. Or maybe it's with cell phones and websites and different things like that. You got to give somebody a password or a passcode. You got to surrender control for a season to be able to gain control in another season. And here's what I know about accountability for my life. The areas that I've always allowed it in are the areas that I've always grown.
That's right.
You know, so you got to want it. You got to invite it. I can't hold you accountable, and if you not want that, because it's going to frustrate you and exhaust me. And if you're in a season like that where you feel like you're fighting someone's asked you, "Hey, will you help me?" and you're fighting them all the time, you need to have this conversation. Like, I can't fight you and help you at the same time to be able to do it. Last one is this, and we'll get you out of here. I think it all comes down to this. I think the entire series, I say that for the very last, this is the key to week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Start with your heart. Start with your heart. I wanted to end here because the reality is you could do every principle we gave you today, but if it's not in your heart, it's just a temporary thing. You got to start with your heart. In fact, you will never be different if you have the same heart on the inside.
That's right.
It starts with the change of our heart. In fact, the condition of a heart to a Christ follower is like the condition of a soul to a farmer. When the soul is toxic and the farmer grows, it is producing toxicity. Much like when a heart of a believer is toxic, we can try all the tips and all the tricks and all the things, but if our heart is, let me say it like this, until our heart is healthy, no area of our life ever will be.
That's right.
And for guys who don't connect with the heart, think about motives or affections, because here's what it says in Proverbs 4, verse 23. Above all else, guard your heart or guard your affection or guard your motive, for, say it with me, everything. Everything. What you say, everything. How you respond, everything. How you act, everything flows from the heart. And until we allow God to do a work in our heart, all the stuff we talked about for the last 4 weeks will always be like fighting against the grain until you say, God, here's my heart.
That's right. So obviously in this role, I get to talk with a lot of people and just chat with a lot of people about life. And I'll have women ask me often, because again, Todd said my heart is to see people live with intention and freedom and passion. And I'll have people ask me like, Avery, how does it seem that you live with such passion and such freedom in your life? And I'll say my life wasn't always that way. And it really goes back to many years ago when I finally surrendered my heart over to the Lord. Yeah. Before that, it was always uphill battle. It was always a struggle. And when I surrendered my heart to the Lord and I said, God, I want your design. And when I caught his vision for my life, man, being Mia Hamm didn't even matter anymore. When I caught his vision for my life, and it goes back to that, guys, you can't have accountability until your heart's right. Yeah. You can't have priorities until your heart is right. You can't have vision. You can't even catch the vision until your heart's in the place. And you've got to start getting into the Word. You got to start asking the designer, how does he see you? Yeah. And the way he sees you is chosen, dearly loved, holy. And you've got to get that inside of you. And until you believe that about yourself, until you see that about yourself, one of my favorite new shows, forget about JoJo, I like Hometown, okay? And they take these old houses, right? They take this old house and they go in and they start scraping away at the damaged places. They take it down to the bare bones and they leave the things that are good, but they scrape away at all that bad stuff. And then they cast a new vision for that house, right? Man, maybe they'll take down some walls. Don't we need some of the walls taken down in our hearts sometimes? They'll take away some of the things that don't need to be there anymore, and they give a new vision and a new life to this house. And the Lord wants to do that for you, but you have to go to him and you have to allow him to do that work. You have to allow him. Let him cast a vision for you, and then let him get to work on the things that need to work in your heart, because until you do that, you'll never be able to live intentional. Amen. You'll never be able to walk that way. As a parent, one of the things that we want to do is we want to raise these 2 boys to be boys of godly character. And a few months ago, I really started praying because I felt like with Carter, I was just butting heads all the time with the way I was disciplining him and the way I was reaching him. And I started to realize, you know what? God is the creator of Carter's heart. Good. And as his mom, God gave him to me to be his mom. God can show me how to reach his heart. Yeah. Because again, if when he's 15 or 16 and he's just obeying out of fear, out of, I don't want to get in trouble, that's so different than obedience out of, you know what? That's not the heart that my father has for me or my parents have for me. That's such a difference. And I have to be able to reach his heart. And God wants to reach your heart. Because again, you can do this stuff, but you're never going to be successful at it until it's been formed in your heart.
Yes, we want to, come on, So we want to give you just a moment as we close to really be able to examine your heart and your motives and your affections and what has a grip on you and what has a hold on you. And if you feel like your faith is in an uphill battle, then maybe the thing that Jesus needs to do is not outside of you or a condition or an obstacle. Maybe it's inside of you. And I don't want to I'll tell you like it is. Different's not easy.
That's right.
If you want easy, don't try to be different. I'm not trying to make it easy on you. We're trying to pastor a church that when the trials and the test of life comes, that your faith stands, that your marriage stands.
Right.
When the winds and when the storms rage, you can say it is well with my soul. I'm not trying to make it easy. I'm trying to make it to the end. I'm trying to get to the end where I look my Savior in the eyes for the very first time, and he says, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a little bit. I'm going to make you faithful over a lot of things. Hang on.